Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about motivation and why it's so important with everything, but specifically with learning English. And then I'm going to share some tips on what you can do when you are struggling to get your motivation. We all go through phases where we'd kind of rather be doing something else than what we know we should be doing. So I'm going to share a few tips with you about what you can do when that happens. So first of all then, what is motivation? So motivation really, it's the feeling and the thinking pattern that activates and sustains our behaviour towards a goal. Now I'm going to give you a new word here. The opposite of motivation is apathy. And apathy is like a kind of a lack of interest and a lack of enthusiasm. So these things, motivation and apathy, they're opposites to one another. So in language learning, we often talk about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Those words are very complicated, so we're just going to simplify things and talk about external and internal motivation. So external motivation is when your reason for learning English comes from wanting to get or do something or have something that is separate from the actual learning you do. So for example, working towards an exam could be a form of external motivation because you want the exam, you want to pass IELTS, not because you love IELTS and like, oh my God, now I get to do my task one again. No, you do IELTS because you want to go to university, you want to move countries, you want to do your master's degree. And those things are external to any love or pleasure you may find in preparing for IELTS. I've worked with quite a lot of students who need English for work. They learn English because their boss wants them to improve or they have to give presentations, but really inside themselves, probably they would rather be doing something else. Internal motivation, you can probably guess, is motivation that comes from you. And internal motivation is when we learn really for the love and joy we find in the learning experience. And I'm a really good example of that. I have no external need to learn Chinese. I absolutely don't want to take an exam. I don't need it for my job. I'm not planning on traveling to Asia anytime soon. But I learn Chinese because I really truly enjoy it. So these two kinds of motivation, external and internal motivation, they can be combined. So I've got a couple of students who already had quite strong levels of internal motivation. They both really enjoyed learning English. And then both of them separately decided to work for an exam. And when they started to do this, it was as though their motivation levels doubled, because not only did they have the internal love of learning English, but they also had a really clear goal and objective, and they worked towards that goal really hard over a long period of time. So for me, in my opinion, when we combine external and internal motivation, we can create something super powerful for ourselves. So if you're not sure why you are motivated to do something, a really good question you can ask is, would I do this if I didn't have to? And if the answer to that question is no, probably not, your motivation for learning is likely to be coming from something outside of you, a boss, a parent, a need to change jobs, whatever it is, but it's kind of some external thing. If your answer to the question, would I do this even if I didn't have to, is like, actually, yeah, I would, then your motivation is probably coming from inside you. I would learn Chinese even if I didn't have to. I don't have to, actually. There's absolutely no need or reason for me to learn it. I just really like it. So why is motivation so important? Well, we all know that feeling when we know we've got something we should do and we kind of need to do it, but at the same time, we don't really want to do it. And I've certainly been suffering from this feeling over the last week. I don't know why, but this week I just really haven't been in the mood to do all the things I need to do. And when we have this feeling, it's very easy to procrastinate. It's very easy to waste time on YouTube, looking at YouTube videos, or waste time watching videos like this. It's very easy to fall into that trap of wasting time on social media, watching Netflix, eating chocolate. Oh my gosh, that's the afternoon, it's gone. And there's nothing wrong with doing this every once in a while. I feel like if you genuinely need to take a break, take a break. But the problem is when this feeling becomes part of our existence and our response to not wanting to do something is to just not do it. Because when that happens, we just stop making progress. Now, learning a language is a very, very challenging task. And if you are watching this video as an English student, you will be aware of this fact. Learning a language is really tough, and it's a task without end. There is no point when you will get to the end and be like, right, that's it, I know everything about English now, because I don't know everything about English. So it's one of these things that we have to be prepared to do over a very extended period of time. And this means that we need motivation, energy, determination, courage, perseverance, organization, and dedication. We need all of those things if we are going to succeed at learning our languages. And I kind of feel that motivation is like, it underpins all of those things. So without motivation, it's going to be really hard to find the energy to put in the time. Without motivation, you might not bother to organize yourself, and then your learning will suffer. Without motivation, when other people do stupid stuff like they laugh at your pronunciation or they make you feel bad, it can be really hard to deal with that. So our motivation, it really pushes us through all the challenges that we face as language learners. Now, despite its importance, as I mentioned at the start of this video, there are times when we've got lots of motivation and there are other times where we just kind of haven't really. And I guess I feel that to an extent, this is natural and this is normal. It's normal for things to go up and down and to not always be the same. We can't expect 100% motivation 100% of the time. I don't feel that's realistic. But we need to learn, I think, the difference between when something inside us is saying, I really need a break right now, and when we are being apathetic and just ignoring the stuff we need to do. And when we get that sense of apathy, I'd rather just watch Netflix right now. I think we need to find our best way to gently encourage ourselves to just do one more step. So I'm now going to share with you 5 tips on how you can re-motivate yourself. And I would suggest that you play with them, take the one that feels best for you. You don't have to try them all, and just see what effect it has. So the first thing that I would say is that although this sounds strange, we actually create our own motivation. So often we think that motivation comes from out here somewhere in the world, and it comes to us, and then we feel motivated. And when we don't feel motivated, it's because there's no motivation out here, so it's time to watch Netflix. In actual fact, we are responsible for creating our motivation. It comes from inside me and you. Now, the truth about my day-to-day, this is the day after a very big football game in the 2020 European Football Championships, and I got to sleep at 1:30 and woke up at 6. So honestly, my motivation for doing this is pretty low, I would say. But I know that I need to create the motivation inside me. And now that I am making my videos, I'm quite happy making my videos. It's not a problem for me anymore. So you are responsible for your motivation levels. So don't wait for it to come to you. You must go to it. Second tip is when we get a big task, when we've got something really big to do, it can feel very, very overwhelming. And that sense of overwhelm can really break our motivation, because sometimes we just think, oh, there's just so much to do. I can't possibly do all this. I'm Netflix, chocolate, that's it, I'm done. So again, it's our response to this situation of having a big task to do. So for example, let's say you're working for IELTS and you've got a lot to do. You need to break that into small, easy to achieve tasks. And this comes from an idea called how to eat an elephant. Now, I'm not advocating eating elephants. We need to protect elephants, but let's imagine an elephant. It's very, very big and you have to eat it. Now, if you try and eat the whole elephant all at once, you're going to be sick. It's not going to work. But if you eat a little bit of elephant every day, eventually you will eat it all. Now again, I'm not talking about real elephants. Please don't think that I'm suggesting we should start to eat elephants. It's a metaphor for how we can tackle big tasks. Now, the third thing that we can do, which massively helps with motivation, is creating routines. Now, I work at home, and so I am completely responsible for my own routine. And you know what? It's not easy. I can tell you this now. It's not easy being at home all day on my own, having to create routines. This is why, if you're a language student, a study plan is so, so helpful, because if you have decided in advance what you are going to do and when you are going to do it, you are much more likely to take that action. If you've got an accountability buddy, someone that you say, hey, this is what I'm going to do today, that's even better, because if you don't do it, you kind of feel a bit stupid. And something that I have recently discovered, which I highly recommend, is a website called Focus Mate. And Focus Mate, you go online, you meet with someone else for 50 minutes and you just both work on your task. And it's a great way to keep yourself motivated. The next one, which is very important, and this is to do with self-talk, and this is that you must reward and praise yourself when you do something. You know, so often we really criticize ourselves. You know, when we don't do things, we are so angry with ourselves. But we don't do the opposite. We don't say, wow, you finished your essay, that's incredible, well done. We never say that to ourselves, and we should. Now, earlier this week, I told you I've been struggling a bit with motivation. And on Monday, I really wasn't at all in the mood to work or do anything. And it was only when I got to bed and I thought about my day that I realized that, in fact, I had done everything I needed to do. And that was kind of a shock, because I felt that I was wasting my day and not being productive. And as I lay there in my bed, I went through each of my tasks in my mind and told myself, well done. Well done, Sarah, for doing that. So when we do this, it makes us feel really good. I lay there feeling, oh, I'm cool, I did all my stuff. And this is such an important feeling to create within ourselves. As adults, we cannot expect other people to praise us. I can't expect praise from my boyfriend, from my mum, from my sister. If I want praise, I have to give it to me. And then if someone else does praise me, well, that's a bonus. That's great. But I take that responsibility on myself. Now, if you are really struggling and you've got a lot to do, but you really don't want to do anything, ask yourself this question. What one thing can I do right now that will make a difference? And then do that thing. And then you can stop. Sometimes when we do this, actually the doing the one thing gives us that motivation. Remember, I talked about creating motivation. And sometimes we're just like, no, I did my thing, I'm done. And that's okay. But this one thing, just taking one step, is a really good way of not feeling guilty and bad if we then decide the day is done. And the last thing that I'm going to suggest, and this is really a tip for people who are generally highly motivated people. This is not a good strategy for people who really struggle with motivation. Now, overall, I would say I'm pretty well motivated. You know, I work at home, like I said, and there has never been a day that my boyfriend has come home and found me watching TV. It doesn't happen. So I'm really focused and motivated. But there are some times when I get this feeling like I can't do this right now. And this feeling is so strong and so deep, and I call it my absolute no point. And when I reach absolute no, it's like, okay, fine. I can feel that I've got a massive resistance right now. I'm just going to put this to one side and think about it later. Now, the danger with absolute no points is finding them. How do we know when to push through resistance and when to respect it? And that's why I would not suggest this strategy for people who struggle with motivation. But if you are highly motivated, you might like to start sensitizing yourself to when you feel places of no, I can't. and just experiment with seeing what happens if you actually respect that. How do you feel? And what happens after that? So those are my tips about motivation. Those are my thoughts about motivation. There is a blog post which matches with this video. I'm going to put the blog post link below the video, so please do go and have a look at it if you like to read. If you have any thoughts or comments, I'm always happy to hear from you. My name is Sarah and I am an English teacher and language anxiety coach. I help people overcome their fear of speaking and using English. Thank you for watching.